Her name is Jennifer Lewis. You know her. She's been on your TV screen for years. The voice of Mama Odie in The Princess and the Frog, Ruby on Blackish, a woman who has spent decades building one of the most recognizable careers in Hollywood. And in 2015, she wired $50,000 to a man who did not exist. Not a man who was hard to track down, not a man operating in the shadows, a man who was standing right in front of her, in plain sight, telling her he was a Navy SEAL, an Oxford-educated theology professor, and an Oscar-winning Hollywood sound designer who personally invented the T-Rex roar in Jurassic Park. All of it, a lie. But here's the thing, Jennifer wasn't the first, and she definitely wasn't the last. This guy had been running cons for over a decade. He had fake Oscar statues in his living room. He had a self-published book on Amazon. He had a Lamborghini in the driveway and a story for everything. His name was Antonio, and by the time the FBI finally caught up to him, he had stolen millions. This is how he did it. Where are you watching from right now? Drop your city and state in the comments. I read every single one. Let's go back to 2005, Pleasanton, California. Antonio is 42 years old, and by all appearances, he's a pretty unremarkable guy. No famous family, no Ivy League degree, no Hollywood connections. What he does have is a very specific talent. He's a world-class liar, and not the sloppy get-caught-in-5 minutes kind. Antonio is surgical about it. For years, he has been moving from person to person, running cons, collecting money, and vanishing before anyone figures out what happened. Rinse and repeat. It's basically his full-time job. But in 2005, he decides to level up. He creates a brand new identity. He starts going by Bryce. And Bryce, he tells people, is a big-time Hollywood sound designer. Not just any sound designer, the guy behind some of the most iconic films in cinema history. Spider-Man, Fantastic Four, King Kong, Jurassic Park. And then he drops the one claim that makes people's jaws fall open. He says he personally invented the T-Rex roar. That sound, that earth-shaking, terrifying, now legendary sound from Jurassic Park, that was him. Just sit with that for a second. He claimed he invented one of the most recognizable sound effects in movie history. Now, you might be thinking, okay, but who actually believes that? People are going to Google this guy, right? And that's exactly what Antonio planned for. He goes to a local jeweler and commissions 3 replica Oscar statues. Full size, convincing. He puts all 3 on display in his house, right where every visitor will see them the moment they walk in. Physical proof, sitting right there on the shelf. Imagine walking into someone's home and seeing 3 Oscar statues gleaming on a shelf. Your brain immediately stops questioning them. Your brain says, this person is legitimate. Antonio knows this, and it works. He then pitches investors on a software platform, a digital mixing board that would let other sound designers download his famous effects online. In 2005, that kind of platform is genuinely novel. And with the fake Oscars backing up his credentials, people believe him. 13 investors, nearly $4.5 million. Where does the money go? A massive house, designer clothes, a Lamborghini, a Hummer. The kind of lifestyle that makes the next round of investors think, this guy is successful. This guy is for real. There is no software. There never was. Antonio is just spending their money on himself and using that visible wealth to attract the next victim. If you are new here, hit that subscribe button and turn on your notifications right now, because this story gets so much darker before it's over, and you do not want to miss what comes next. Here's the thing about con men. They're usually great at stealing money. They're almost never great at managing it. Antonio, for all his meticulous planning, the fake identities, the replica Oscars, the Lamborghini, forgot one very important thing: the IRS. By 2009, he's been pulling in millions for years, and he hasn't paid a dime in taxes. Not a dime. And the IRS, it turns out, is very good at noticing that kind of thing. They launch an investigation, and pretty quickly, the whole scheme starts to unravel. The fake identity, the fabricated Hollywood credits, the missing software, the $4.5 million that somehow became a Lamborghini and a Hummer and a big house in California. Antonio gets arrested. He takes a plea deal. 4 years in federal prison. He serves 3.5. And here's where most people would expect the story to end. Guy gets caught, does his time, maybe learns something, right? Wrong. Very, very wrong. Because the second Antonio walks out of that prison, and I mean the second, he starts building again. Not rebuilding his life, building a new lie. You have to understand something about people like Antonio. Prison isn't a wake-up call. It's a planning period. He spent 3.5 years thinking about what went wrong and how to do it better next time. And next time, he was ready. New Antonio, new identity, brand new scam. This time, he tells people he's a religious scholar, specifically an Oxford University graduate and a theology professor at UCLA. Deep, credible, respectable. And then he does something genuinely clever. He self-publishes a book on Amazon. It's called Behind the Faith: Why Christians Believe What They Believe, a real book with his name on it, available for purchase. Think about what that does. If anyone gets suspicious and Googles him, and people always Google now, they find a published author. They find a man with credentials. They find exactly the kind of person he told them he was. Show a phone screen of someone searching a name and finding a book on Amazon. Watch how quickly doubt disappears from their face. He also gets a job at LA Fitness as a club manager and personal trainer. Now I want you to stop for a second, because I need you to hold all of these things in your head at the same time. Navy SEAL, Oxford grad, UCLA theology professor, published author, sound designer, personal trainer at LA Fitness. At what point does someone stop and say, wait, how does a retired Navy SEAL who graduated from Oxford, teaches at UCLA, and designs sound effects for Jurassic Park, also need to work the front desk at a gym? The answer is, most people don't stop, because Antonio doesn't give them time to think. He's charming, he's confident, he's warm, he makes you feel special. And by the time the questions start forming, you're already in. That's the thing about con men at this level. They don't trick you with logic, they trick you with emotion. Engagement prompt. What time is it where you are right now? Drop it in the comments. I'm curious how many time zones are tuned in. It's 2015. And one afternoon at LA Fitness, Antonio notices a woman working out. Her name is Jennifer Lewis. And if you spent any time watching television or animated films in the last 30 years, you know who she is. She voiced Mama Odie in The Princess and the Frog. She plays Ruby on Blackish. She's magnetic. She's talented. She has worked incredibly hard for everything she has. And the moment Antonio sees her, something clicks in his brain. He knows she's famous. He knows she has money. And he immediately starts calculating. So he engineers an encounter, a casual, totally not planned bump in. They start talking, and Antonio plays it perfectly. He acts like he barely recognizes her, like he's vaguely aware she might be on TV somewhere, but couldn't quite place it. Oh wow, you're on a show? That's so cool. What's it called? That kind of thing. Because here's what Antonio understands that most people don't. Famous people spend their entire lives surrounded by others who want something from them. Fans who are starstruck, people who want connections, people who treat them like a prize. What feels genuinely rare to someone like Jennifer is someone who just treats her like a regular person, someone who seems interested in her, not her fame. Antonio knows exactly how to be that person. They start talking regularly, then they start dating. And once they're comfortable, Antonio rolls out the full presentation. He's a successful sound designer who worked on major Hollywood films. He's a theology professor who graduated from Oxford. He's a retired Navy SEAL, published author. He's basically a superhero with a gym membership. Jennifer checks Amazon. She finds the book, right there with his name on it. She has no reason to doubt him, and so she falls for it. Not because she's naive. She's one of the sharpest people in the industry. She falls for it because Antonio spent years perfecting exactly this performance, on exactly this type of person. That's not stupidity. That's manipulation. If this story has your jaw on the floor right now, smash that like button. It genuinely helps more people find this channel, and this is one of those cases more people need to hear about. Once Antonio has Jennifer's trust, he makes his move. He tells her about his business, a sound effects company already operating, already pulling in clients like ABC and EA Sports. Big names, legitimate sounding, and it's on the verge of blowing up, he says. All it needs is a little more capital to scale. He asks her to invest. And Jennifer, who is now in a serious relationship with this man, a man she trusts, a man she believes in, says yes. She writes him a check for $50,000, $50,000 in cash, handed over to a man with fake Oscars and a self-published theology book. Antonio takes the money, and just like every time before, he spends it on himself. But here's what's different this time. This isn't a quick hit and run. The relationship keeps growing. They're spending more time together. They're getting serious. At some point, they're talking about marriage. Jennifer is even considering investing more. And Antonio, rather than taking his $50,000 and disappearing like he might have in the old days, decides to keep going, keep performing, keep building, because he's not just looking at Jennifer as a victim, he's looking at her as a long-term asset. The more she trusts him, the more she's willing to give. So he keeps the con alive. He shows up. He's attentive. He plays the loving partner. He introduces her to the life he supposedly built. Meanwhile, and this is the part that really gets me, while all of this is happening with Jennifer, Antonio has also opened up another operation, a completely separate con, running simultaneously in Santa Monica. This man is not just a liar. He is a full-time, multi-track, enterprise-level fraud operation. Hold on before we get to the moment this whole thing starts to crack. Make sure you are subscribed, because when the FBI finally enters this story, it is a completely different level. Do not go anywhere. It doesn't start with a detective. It doesn't start with a background check. It starts with a conversation. Jennifer is hanging out with a friend, just casually catching up, and she mentions the man she's been seeing, Antonio, the sound designer, the Navy SEAL, the Oxford professor, the guy who invented the T-Rex roar, and her friend gets a look on her face. Not alarm, not accusation, just a look. The kind that says something about that doesn't sit right with me. So the friend goes home and does what any of us would do in 2015. She Googles him, and there it is. Old news articles, court documents, a federal fraud case involving a con man named Bryce, who scammed 13 investors out of nearly $4.5 million in a fake Hollywood sound design scheme. A man who had replica Oscar statues in his house. A man who went to federal prison. And the man in those documents? It's Antonio. Different name, same guy. The friend tells Jennifer everything. And Jennifer, I want to say this clearly, Jennifer does not fall apart. She doesn't make excuses for him. She doesn't give him a chance to explain. She ends the relationship immediately. And then she goes straight to the police. That takes strength, because she had real feelings for this person. She had planned a future with him, and everything, every conversation, every dinner, every intimate moment had been a performance, a calculation. That kind of betrayal doesn't just hurt your bank account. It makes you question your own judgment. It makes you wonder how you missed it. The answer is, you didn't miss it. He hid it perfectly, because that's all he's ever done. Here's what Jennifer didn't know while all of this was going on. While Antonio was playing the devoted partner, while he was talking about marriage, while Jennifer was considering giving him even more money, he had already started over. Over in Santa Monica, Antonio was running a completely separate con under a different pitch. This time he told people he was a tech entrepreneur building a startup called Second Life. He wasn't meeting victims at a gym anymore. He was going digital. Dating apps. He would match with women, build genuine seeming connections, and then pivot to the investment ask. $100 here, a few thousand there. Over about 2 years, across multiple victims, he pulls in roughly $300,000. And he's getting away with it. He's getting away with all of it. The scary truth about con men at this level is that they don't get caught because the system catches them. They get caught because someone refuses to stay quiet. And that's exactly what happens. Jennifer Lewis is done being a victim. She files a police report. She hires an attorney. And then she does something that takes a very specific kind of courage. She goes public. She starts giving interviews. She tells the full story, the fake credentials, the Oscar statues, the $50,000, all of it. She talks about how she was manipulated, not with shame, with clarity and anger. And she directs that anger at the one thing that might actually protect other women: exposure. I'm telling this story, she essentially says, so it doesn't happen to the next person. She also sues Antonio directly for defrauding her, and she goes after LA Fitness too, for hiring a convicted felon without doing a proper background check and putting him in a position where he had direct access to clients. The story starts gaining traction. Media picks it up. Other women who were scammed by Antonio start coming forward. The pattern becomes undeniable, and in 2018, 3 years after Jennifer first walked into that LA Fitness, the FBI opens a formal investigation. Federal agents begin interviewing victims. They pull financial records. They map the full timeline, from the first scam in 2005, to the prison sentence, to the Oxford professor identity, to Jennifer, to the Santa Monica dating app operation. They build a case, brick by brick. And then they move. Antonio gets arrested. Just like the first time, he takes a plea deal. He knows how this goes. He knows when he's out of moves. This time the sentence is 8 years in federal prison, 8 years. For a man who has been doing this his entire adult life, who stole $4.5 million in the first scam, $300,000 in the Santa Monica operation, $50,000 from Jennifer alone, a man who sat in a cell for 3.5 years and walked out and immediately started lying again. LA Fitness settles with Jennifer out of court. They pay her $13,000 for failing to run a background check on a convicted federal fraudster they put in charge of client relationships. Make of that what you will. Jennifer had invested $50,000. She was considering investing more. She had planned a life with this man, and the gym that handed him that access, that platform, that built-in credibility, $13,000. Here's what I want you to take away from this case. Antonio wasn't successful because the people he targeted were foolish. He was successful because he understood something most of us don't want to admit, that trust isn't built on facts. It's built on feelings, on presence, on the way someone makes you feel when you're around them. He manufactured all of it perfectly. The fake Oscars weren't stupid. They were strategic. The Amazon book wasn't an afterthought. It was a prop in a performance he'd been rehearsing for years. The personal trainer job at LA Fitness wasn't beneath him. It was a hunting ground, and the thing that finally brought him down wasn't a background check or a federal database. It was a friend who got a funny feeling and decided to look something up. That's it, a Google search and a gut instinct. So the next time something feels slightly off, a story that's almost too impressive, a credential you can't quite verify, a business pitch from someone you just started dating, trust that feeling. Because con men don't fail when the system catches them. They fail when someone refuses to look away. What's the weather like where you are right now? Drop it in the comments. And if this story got to you, share it with someone. You never know who might need to hear it. If you made it to the end of this one, thank you, genuinely. Hit subscribe if you haven't already, and turn on notifications. The next case on this channel is one you are absolutely not prepared for.